Hey guitar fam and friends, how's it going? It's Nate here, and I just wanted to do a quick video for you. I just kind of open a conversation in the community to talk about the 7 best pieces of musical advice I've ever received in my life. And hopefully this will kind of motivate you to share the best musical advice you've received throughout your life. That way you can get some kind of compendium of really good musical advice that we can all kind of attempt and follow and see what works for us that has helped us over the years. And these are in no particular order, they're just the 7 biggest things that kind of came to my mind when I thought about, okay, what's the best advice I've gotten from really musicians that I really admire over the years. And 6 of these are from in-person conversations, and the 7th one is just from a video that I watched. More about that when we get to it. Before we get into this though, if you haven't gone to guitarfam.com and created your complimentary account yet, make sure to do that. You'll get access to the first module of all of our premium courses, like the Strumming Doctor if you're having trouble strumming, the Bar Chord Masterclass if you're having trouble with bar chords, all those things. And we now have monthly and annual premium membership options that give you access to our full library of premium courses. All right, number 1. This first one, I was at one of those like celebrity guitar player camps, just for really, it was a vacation for me, just to have fun and go be inspired. And it was Joe Satriani's, and he had one of his little breakout sessions or master classes. And I remember just like feeling so like, oh, so ashamed. But he said, if you are serious about guitar and you don't have the fretboard memorized cold, you're kidding yourself. So I really took that to heart because, you know, I knew the fretboard okay at that time, and I could find any note on the fretboard, but I was really referencing other notes. Like I would reference the notes on the low E string to find a note on the D string or something like that, or I would reference a note on the D string to find a note on the B string. So I took that advice seriously, and for the next, I don't know, probably the next 6 months to a year, I would open up all my practice sessions with just starting out trying to memorize the notes on the fretboard. And I found out a lot of really cool things that made memorizing the notes on the fretboard a lot easier. And ever since I did that, it's been much easier to learn new things on the guitar and to improvise and to play, you know, make up my own rhythm guitar parts and figure out songs and all of these things. And what this really kind of gets to the heart of the matter is boiling the guitar down to its smallest component, which are individual notes. And I find that very important and very helpful over my career of playing the guitar in general. So important, in fact, that I'm doing a caged course right now. I'm working on it based on the Guitar Fam survey that we just did because people want a caged course. And one of the modules in that course is learning the notes on the fretboard. It's kind of a reference module that you can use in your playing for a long time to come. But it may seem like an overwhelming task to memorize all the notes on the fretboard, but if you do it a little bit every day or every practice session, in 6 months or a year, you're gonna have it down. And I feel like this can always be better or more solid or faster, but just knowing that like this is a B flat is a really big help. All right, the 2 biggest influences and inspirations in my life, musically speaking, have got to be either my dad, because he was my first guitar teacher, or Dr. Randy Snyder. He was my main professor when I went to music school, and he was a bit of a hard nose. He didn't put up with crap, man. He would call you out on your stuff, but sometimes you need that to make yourself a better musician. And number 2 here, the advice that he gave me, and he gave this, and he would say, the first time he said it was in the middle of a room, like in the middle of jazz band rehearsal. He's like, you know what? He stopped everything. He said, you're responsible for your own musicianship. And that's the piece of advice. That rings in my ears like almost every week. Like when I'm working on something and I'm not quite getting there, I want to keep working on something, but I know, oh, it's going to be a lot of hard work. I hear that ringing in my ears. Dr. Snyder just saying to me, I am responsible for my own musicianship. I don't deserve anything unless I've worked for it. And that has helped me through a lot of the hard times. I think back to when I did the fingerstyle masterclass and I was going through and trying to get better at fingerstyle. That was kind of my mantra. I'm responsible for how good I want to get at this. And it's kind of the same thing to a different degree with the blues course, the Blues Hound that just came out. But think about that for yourself. You're not going to get any better unless you sit down and put in the time and spend time with your instrument. You're responsible for your own musicianship. Number 3, this one is, quite a bit of these are unusual because at the time when I heard them, I did not fully understand them. They just came to mean more and more and more over the years. That's with almost all of these. But number 3 was from a guy named Mr. Stringer. I don't even know his first name, but he owned a guitar store, a private, you know, mom and pop guitar shop that me and my dad used to always go to. And his name was actually Mr. Stringer, and the name of the store was Guitar Stringer. So I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, he was an older guy. He's probably, he had to be in his 60s when I knew him, and I was in my teens. This is when I was just starting to play in my teens, right? And we were in there one day, and I was like really getting into guitar, and my dad was like, well, what's the most important thing for my son to learn? If he wants to get really good at guitar, he might want to go to school for it, you know? And he's like, Mr. Stringer said, learn how chords work and learn chords. At the time, I was like, I know my chords. I know open chords and bar chords, right? But that's not what he meant. What he essentially was saying was learn music theory, learn how the guitar fretboard is laid out with chords, learn how to use, learn how chords work as far as how they're built and how they can be used as far as like targeting notes with your solos, triads, making really cool chord voicings. And if you understand that, a lot of heartache is going to be taken out of learning the guitar and learning songs and things like that. And basically all he's saying is practice rhythm guitar, right? You've heard people say that over and over again, learn rhythm guitar first. And that's what he said, but he learned it he said it in a different way. And over the years, I found out to be true. Like as far as boiling down the guitar, I'm either going to do, I've already done a video by the time this video comes out, I'm boiling down the guitar to its basic most single unit, right? Just notes. But the level beyond that is like triads, chords. Like this little shape, I see it as the root, the third, and the fifth. And that's what Mr. Stringer was talking about. He's not just talking about learning a D chord. He's talking about how does that chord function? What's it made of? How can you move it around the fretboard? And once you learn how to do that and how chords are made and how you can use them in different contexts, you can end up manipulating them either for rhythm or lead guitar in ways that are kind of hard to understand or really grasp if you start off, you know, with big scales and things like that. So thinking about chords is really important. All right, number 4, this is the one that I did not hear in person. I learned it or heard it from John Petrucci in his Rock Discipline video. And he said something to the effect that always apply everything to music. Whatever it is you're working on, apply it to music, whether that's writing your own things or learning cover songs. Because if you just learn scales and chords for the sake of learning scales and chords, it's gonna have a really hard time using them in a musical context. So either writing a song and you know, coming up with your own stuff and then figuring out what's the nuts and bolts are behind them as far as the theory, the chord shapes, scale shapes or whatever, intervals. Doing that is it's teaching yourself how to fish instead of just going to the market and buy a fish, right? And even with learning cover songs to take, instead of just learning chords, okay, I'm gonna learn this song and I'm gonna learn the chords that are in it. I know there are a few in here that I don't know yet. So that's a really good vehicle to learn new things. And as you do that, don't just settle for knowing where to put your fingers, really dig in and find out the why behind the what. Like figure out, okay, why do these chords work together in this key, the music theory part of it, right? How can I play the particular voicings in the song instead of just run like an open G, C, D, something like that, just open chords. If the song does something like this, G, C, D, learn those specific chord voicings and where they come from, right? And like in the key of G, it's a 1, 4, 5, the key of G. And that way, the next time you come across a song in the key of G, you're gonna have a little bit more ammo to play some more interesting chords, and you're gonna know exactly what's coming as far as, you know, chord progressions and things like that. All right, number 5 is from another one of my professors in music school, Mr. Gleason, or Dr. Gleason. And he said, if you're a music major and you're not practicing at least an hour a day, you're kidding yourself. You may as well just leave, right? He was pretty harsh too. He was a little bit nicer than Dr. Snyder. Dr. Snyder was awesome. He was nice, but he was very not sugar-coated, right? Mr. Gleason had at least a little coating of sugar on him. Anyway, I know not everybody's a music major. Not everybody can practice an hour a day, and that's okay. But the message here is to be consistent with your practice. Even if it's only 15 minutes a day, if that's what you can do and you're not doing it 5 or 6 days a week, then this is going to sound pretty hard-nosed too, then you probably really don't want to get better. You just like the idea of getting better. And I've had to confront myself with that a lot too over the years. Like, okay, do I really like the idea, or do I want to get better, or do I just like the idea of getting better? And that's something you have to be honest with yourself about, and just commit to whatever it is, whatever amount of time it is that you can do with your schedule. It may not be an hour a day, and that's okay, but if it's 20 minutes and you know you can do 20 minutes, you should be doing 20 minutes. All right, number 6 is from a random guy in Guitar Center. It wasn't really random, he was a regular. He's a very, very good jazz/blues player, and he would come in all the time and just pick up, you know, the nicest hollow body he could find, get his hands on, and just play. And I would sit there and talk to him, pick his brain. And I was like, well, how did you get so good? He's like, man, sing whatever you play. You have to be able to sing whatever you play. And at the time I was like, okay, how do you even start doing that, right? That's cool, and sounds awesome. I'd love to be able to do it, but how do you even start doing it, right? And over the years, the more I learned about ear training and just started digging into being able to identify intervals and stuff in my ear, the more that has rung true, especially when I started really digging into the blues a few years ago and to do the blues hound course. Knowing what's going to come out of your guitar before you actually play it. Like, so for example, is a skill that seems unattainable, but as soon as you start digging into it, it is one of the most useful things you can do on the guitar. And yeah, it requires ear training, it requires a knowledge of intervals and theory and stuff like that, but just take it one step at a time. Just start with a note and sing it back to yourself and start to learn to match pitch. And then the next thing is to add an interval. It doesn't have to, it could be as simple as a major second. Do, re, mi, or 1, 2. And I would recommend going by numbers on the guitar, right? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. As soon as you can hear that in your head, as soon as you hear a solo or a chord progression where the bass note moves by a whole step, or the melody moves by a whole step, you're going to be, hey, that's a major second. It's a whole step. I know what it sounds like. And you'll be able to sing it no matter where you go. Oh, I accidentally hit the same note. Let me go to a different note. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, and then you can do that with all the other intervals. So if I have this A, I can do a minor third. That's really important for the blues. And probably the most useful exercise for this is to just go through the major scale, any major scale shape, always going back to 1. So if you have 1, 2, go back to 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 4, 1, 1, 5, 1, 1, 6, 1, 1, 7, 1, 1, 1, 1. That way it starts to burn the sound of those intervals in your head. But that's how you get started with singing what you play on the guitar. And this just brought another piece of advice from Hal Galper, a video that I saw on Facebook. I didn't even know who Hal Galper was before this, but he said something to the effect, and this goes right along with the last one, and this means we have 8 tips. But he said something like, if you can't hear it in your head or sing it, then you can't play it. And I found that to be really true, especially when I'm learning cover songs like solos for the YouTube channel or something. Until I can really sing it or hear it in my head, then I have trouble with the phrasing or the timing or anything like that. But if I can hear it in my head and I know where the notes are, then it makes it way, way, way easier to play whatever it is you're working on. So don't overlook the importance of active listening when you're trying to learn a new song. Just sitting down, not doing anything, just listening and getting to where you know exactly what's coming along and you can hum along to it. All right, that was a bonus one. Let's move on to number 8, and this one is from a friend named Caesar Gill. He, back in my music school days for jazz band, he was the best improviser out of everyone. He was a saxophone player, just incredible, especially for his age. I asked him one day after rehearsal, how in the world do you do that, and where do you even start? And his advice to me was like, hey, just start learning to go up and down the chord, the 7th chords for whatever quality of chord. It could be major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, minor 7 flat 5, or fully diminished 7 chord. Just learn how to go up and down the scale, or the arpeggio, right? And at the time I was like, okay, I'm more into rock and shred, so I was like, A swept arpeggio. That's what I heard at the time. But over the years, as I've learned more about music and guitar, what he was saying was like, know the notes and the chords and be able to target them. Like, so if you're playing a G major 7 chord, you need to know that the notes are G, B, D, and F sharp. And if you know that, you don't have to start on the root. You could start on the 3rd. So I just played a melody just using the notes out of a G major 7 chord. And when you know the notes in whatever chord you're playing over, then you have these anchor points, these great note choices to play no matter how wacky the chord progression is. What if I move to the 2 chord? I could play up and down an arpeggio, right? That's not very musical, but if I know that C is the 3rd of A, and then E is the 5th of A, then I can choose any of those notes. And that's what he meant. Get familiar and really know what notes are in the chord you're playing over and be able to go to any one of them at any given time. And that It's been like a lifelong journey that I'm sure will continue to be a lifelong journey, but it's one of the most useful things that I've experienced as far as learning how to improvise over chord changes in general, easy chord changes or really wacky chord changes in general, and it's been the most helpful thing for me too. All right, that's all I have. I guess I could have thought of a few more pieces of advice I've received over the years, but these are the ones that have stuck out to me the most and helped me the most. Do me a favor, go to the comments below and leave the best pieces of advice you've got that have helped you become a better guitar player and a better musician over the years. That way everybody else can kind of benefit from your experience too. We'll see you later.